to Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow. My name is Mariana Cordier, and I am your host. Today, we accept women are no longer wives and mothers, but executives, entrepreneurs, and politicians. More women are considering pursuing a career in politics and facing the challenges to succeed and continue to hold office. Joining me today to discuss women in politics are Lily Chi, Maryland State Delegate for District 15, Joseline Pena-Melnyk, Maryland State Delegate for District 21, Natali Fani-Gonzalez. She just announced this morning that she's running for Montgomery County Council, District 4, and Laurie-Anne Sayles. She's the council member for the city of Gaithersburg. It's a very, very august group. Thank you, ladies, for joining me. But, I have a question. Getting into politics, no matter who you are, is hard. But as a woman, there are so many challenges that I can't imagine. Joseline, you are a veteran at this and the challenges you face. Can you share with us your point of view on this?
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. And it's really an honor to be with these women that I have so much respect for. So thank you so much. This is an important issue because, I have heard people often say that it takes a woman must be asked at least 7 times before she decides to run for office, because we want to say maybe later, not now. When a man is asked, regardless whether they have children or not, they often jump into it, right? So for us, it often takes a while to make that decision. And the reason is because we wear a lot of hats. Okay, we wear a lot of hats. We are first of all, we are a human being with needs. We are a sister, a mother, a wife, a friend, and we are often taking care of people, caregivers. So we put ourselves last before we really want to pursue our goals, or we think about the reason why we shouldn't do it. When we are more capable, in my opinion, no disrespect to any man, any of your viewers, because we wear so many hats, and we're really great thinkers. We are consensus builders. We bring a lot of experience to the table that a man does not bring, and we ought to be in office at the table when decisions are being made, because we should be part of the conversation. So it is a balancing act. I often say that, women can do anything we want to do. And I mentor a lot of young women, and I tell them that whoever you choose as a partner can make you or break you. My husband is my biggest cheerleader, and he supports everything I do. So he didn't mind staying with the kids or going with me and the kids while I gave a speech or I'm doing my food distribution. So you have to choose wisely, and you have to choose a partner that supports your goals. And if you want it, regardless, you can do it. It's just a matter of being disciplined, but don't let anything get in your way. We can do it better than any man can.
And Lily, what is your perspective from your experience in running and holding office?
Well, first of all, thank you for having us. I am honored to join this outstanding group of women leaders. No matter what they do, they are fabulous in their unique, distinct ways, and these great servant leaders. I had to be encouraged many times before I ran for office. It took me a long time to finally decide, because I started by saying, my job at the time was in Washington, D.C., and my home has been in Montgomery County. The commuting back and forth was not only stressful, but it got me think I didn't really know much about my own community where I lived and raised a family, right? So I decided to get involved. And the more I got involved, the more people say, we need people like you who can speak great English and who can speak for us and can talk about these issues. Why don't you run for office instead of just introducing all of the other candidates every time and encourage us to go to these events and go to these rallies? We don't have anyone like you, who can understand our culture and represent us as immigrants and especially as Asian Americans who are grossly underrepresented in politics, right? And it's not like I didn't think about that seriously. And I have been encouraging a lot of other Asian Americans to run, but it took me some time to see myself in that role, and I think that is a mental hurdle that a lot of women will have to overcome, which is you have to see yourself in that role. And I think a lack of role models was definitely a challenge for women, and to me, it's not just because I'm a woman, but also because I'm an Asian and an immigrant who speaks English as second language. Did I have what it takes to explain policy issues? Did I have what it takes to win a race? Did I have the political base? Would my people turn out for me? Could I raise money? I mean, there were all kinds of questions on your mind, right? And then over time, I came to the realization that not only could I bring a unique voice and perspective to politics, but I could energize so many others who would say, hey, if she could do it, what excuse do you have if you were born and raised as a second generation in America, right? So hopefully I can, carve out a path for them. And that was exactly what happened when I launched my campaign. A lot of people didn't understand why they had to register as a Democrat or Republican to vote in the primary. And I said, if you did not vote in the primary, your voice essentially did not matter as much,
I think that's something that most people don't understand in particular.
Exactly. A lot of people from other states don't understand, let alone, immigrants who hate the idea of joining some political parties, And so I spent so much time explaining American politics and government 101 and say, there are 3 different levels of government, county, state, and federal, and we don't report to each other. That was new to a lot of people, right? And so that itself became such an empowering and educational process that we really turn out a lot of first-time voters. And so I think I'm very confident because of people like me who jumped in and paved the way for others. There will be a lot more women who can dream about serving in public office. So I think that itself is totally worth it.
And I wanted to ask Laurie-Anne, being a council woman for the city of Gaithersburg, not to give secrets away, but have you thought about continuing to pursue another office in politics, or has the experience, been such that you're not considering that?
Well, I'm always considering where I can be most useful to the community. Right now, in the midst of the pandemic and trying to be responsive to residents in the hardest impacted parts of our county, have taken most of my attention. And so also being the only woman on the council and the first African-American elected to the city council, it's definitely a huge responsibility that I've stepped into, and a role that I've welcomed all of the challenges since then. And we've come a long way since being on the council and being able to introduce resolutions about racial equity and affirming our commitment to addressing racial equity in a sustainable way that includes every part of our government, from procurement to planning to programmatic efforts. And so definitely it's important to have a woman's voice and perspective on the council. And, if my family is supportive and the community sees that my efforts can be useful in other areas of our government, I'm definitely open to those possibilities.
Well, that's good to know if people are listening and watching. And for someone who did decide to step up a little bit, we have Natali, who is running for county council. The county council is all men but Nancy Navarro, and she is reached her term limits for the next election, and so you're running for her seat. How much of a role in your decision did that play in?
It was not, first of all, thank you so much for inviting us. What a great pleasure is to be here with Delegate Joseline Pena-Melnyk, Delegate Lily Qui, and Laurie-Anne Sayles, who has been such a champion in Montgomery County as well. I would say it wasn't an easy decision. It took me a while to consider running for county council. I have people who have said, Natali, you should do it at large. Because I'm coming from the Montgomery County Planning Board. But the reality is that I'm so connected with my local community. I'm so connected with Wheaton, in Aspen Hill, where I lived for many years, Kensington Heights. These are places who have known me, and I feel that they're family. So if and it's not to disregard the rest of Montgomery County, okay? I definitely respect the entire county as a whole, but I do feel that Councilwoman Nancy Navarro has done such an amazing job in this district. And I want to make sure that that work, that effort that she has put in so many years continues. And I do believe I'm the right person for it. But again, it wasn't easy. I'm also a mom. I had 2 little kids, 2nd and 3rd grade. I also have a full-time job doing work nationwide. Plus, I'm on parking planning. So I have 2 full-time jobs, plus 2 little kids, and I'm running for county council. When it's meant to be, and when people tell you, Natali, you have put so much work and so much love into this community, you should just go for it, then you need to follow your heart and believe that you're not doing this by yourself. There are people who are pushing you, who are with you to make it happen. And as Delegate Joseline mentioned before, she talked about her husband. I am lucky and blessed to have somebody who loves me and respects me, and who's my best friend, and he's supporting me 100% to do this. I think that's also very important.
Well, that raises a really good point that I'll throw it out to whoever wants to answer this question. We talk in general about, wanting to run and the challenges of running, but down to the real nitty gritty on how to really make that assessment, or a tip for those in the audience that are, not sure what does it mean to think about it and reach that decision to run for office. What would you advise them? Laurie-Anne?
I think the biggest barrier for most women running for office is fundraising. It's hard for women to ask for money. It's hard for women to believe that they are worth investing in. They're worth bringing something to the table. And so I believe if anyone is struggling with that decision, I would talk to women who are already in elected office. Do your research. A lot of us had to learn more about our communities. Delegate Chi also mentioned about how much research she had to do about learning about her community, learning, what the demographics are of the community, who's registered, where are those registered voters at, and then what their registration is. So you really have to dig deep down and learn about your community, learn about the challenges, learn about opportunities for improvement. And I think once you do your research, you talk with your family, the decision should be much more easier.
And what about the stumbling blocks? Because there are those, regardless if you're a man or a woman, will put stumbling blocks in your way or make it more difficult for you. How do you approach that?
Look,
Joseline?
when I was running for office the first time for the city council in College Park, I have never even contemplated running for office. Didn't know what it was to run for office. Didn't have anyone in my family run to office. I'm first to graduate college and let alone go to law school. I started getting involved in the community and volunteering at the local level, right, on different boards. I had my kids, they were young. And then I started to see that there was a need for a voice and to fight certain issues and to be a voice. And I decided to go ahead and give my time. Then when the opportunity came to run for the council, it was another woman she was the first mayor, female mayor in College Park, and the only one we have had. And she says, you should run for office. I said, really? She says, yes, you can do it. Go for it. So I said, okay. I came home and I said to my husband, like I did when I ran for delegate, I'm not asking you for permission. I'm going to do it. I love to have whoever your partner is, or whether you have a partner or not, or if you don't, you should talk to a friend and always have someone that you can bounce your thoughts. And at the end of the day, you make that decision because it's something you want, because you want to. I did it because I wanted to serve. I wanted to make a difference. As a Black Latina, I didn't see people like myself. And I wanted to be in the room where these decisions were being made. So you do it intelligently. You think about it, you talk to people you trust, and then you assess your situation and you go for it. But I would say, don't think about it too hard. Just go for it. Other people that are not as capable as you are doing it, right? With all due respect. And they go ahead and they do it. They make the calls and they raise the money. All of us can raise money, whether you're male or female. You all have friends. You start with your family. Then you go to, people you went to college, or people that work with you, or people that are on certain boards. And then you go to their friends, right? And you tell your friend, hey, Lily, I need you to have a fundraiser for me at your house. And you go to Laurie-Anne or Natali or Mariana, I've been to you and I ask you for money. So all of us are capable of raising funds, and you're capable of doing it. You have a voice, and we need your expertise, and we need women. Today, there's a story in the Washington Post about the lack of women in the Maryland federal delegation. We have not all 10 men. All of them are males when we are 53% of the population in Maryland.
I think that there's a sense of fear, or, well, now's not the time, or, maybe I don't have the background for it. But, at the end of the day, I think the advice of just do it. What do you have to lose? Really, you get your name out there if you don't win the first go around, and then maybe the second time around you get it. Lily, I wanted to ask you because, and not to put you on the spot, but being an Asian American, and with the anti-Asian sentiment and some of the really ugly part of politics, I imagine that your presence has inspired the Asian community in having their voice present and to be heard. What has the response been for you and to you?
Well, thank you for this very thoughtful and a timely question. The past year, a year plus, has been very difficult for the Asian American community. For anyone who looks like me, essentially, whether they are Chinese or not, they have been scapegoated and looked upon as responsible for the spread of the virus, partly because of the former president's toxic rhetoric and the overall national political climate that is getting to be more polarized. So our community has been on edge. But I want to give our Asian American communities a lot of credit for taking advantage of that concern actually and channel that into positive energy by sourcing and donating, hundreds of thousands of PPEs across Maryland, to first responders, to homeless shelters, to different underserved communities, to show that we are also part of the community. So I was very much part of that effort, and that to use that to actually build stronger community bonds. But at the same time, now more than ever, we need visible leadership within the Asian American community. People who, like me, who can speak up and step up. As soon as the pandemic hit, I realized a lot of people resort to gun buying as a way of protecting themselves, because I think in the minority communities, whether you are Black, brown, or Asian, there's still a mistrust of government being able to protect you. So a lot of people actually ended up buying guns, thinking that's the best way to protect themselves. So we had seminars to educate people about how to properly report hate crimes. And, I think people also are looking for ways to fight back everyday bigotry. My colleague, Delegate Joseline Pena-Melnyk, knows that I wrote an op-ed recently because I felt like I had the obligation to speak out when, even in my position of leadership as a legislator, I continue to experience misogyny, sexism, and racism thrown at us, right? Even on the House floor. And if I did not speak up and stand up and fight for ourselves, then how could we expect our next generation or others to do the same? So I decided, with some ringing, at the end of the day, I needed to speak out. So I wrote an op-ed and then said whatever he said was unacceptable, and the response to your question has been tremendous. And our people saw that as a sign of strength and say, okay, now I know how to do it next time. If I see something that didn't sound right, that hurt my feelings, I have the right to speak out. I don't have to be afraid, because my presence and my voice matters. I should not let anyone push us aside and treat us as others, basically,
And how do you deal with that issue when you're in an election and your opposing person is doing that or saying things that are inappropriate? How do you guys approach that? Any of you want to tackle that question?
Look, I think that the way to do it is, first, I always say you get more with honey than you do with vinegar. So I call the person, right? And I say, look, this is not right. You know who I really am. I said, so I would ask you to please refrain from doing that. A lot of times I've been able to sort of preempt it and say, we're going to run a decent race. We both are decent people, and let's just be kind. And that works a lot. If I have never experienced it, thank God, where it has been done or mailing has been sent. But I would imagine that if there was such a mailing done or something that is inappropriate, today you could do Facebook ads very cheaply. You could do a mailing, you could do a robocall and address it, right? But sometimes is it really worth it? Because then you add more credibility to it. Maybe it's best to choose your battles and let it go. I think, like you do with anything else in life, when you have a disagreement, sometimes, as I tell my kids, if you ever find yourself in a situation that is uncomfortable or is about to get out of hand, just walk away. Don't worry about it, walk away. And sometimes it's the same thing in politics. The same values and morals apply. You're still that human being, right? And you have to have your dignity and be a decent human being. That's it. And if the other person is not doing it, people will know the difference. It's like Michelle Obama said, when they go low, right?
Right. We go high, exactly. And so, taking all of that into consideration, which affects the family, how do you guys juggle the family life and challenges?
I can tell you what I did today. Let me tell you what I did today. So I woke up, made breakfast, and I knew the article from Bethesda B was coming out announcing my candidacy. But also had 2 conference calls for my job. And so between 2, and so I did all that. So between 2 and 4, 2 to 3:30, right before this Zoom, I went out and I started knocking on doors. Like I told myself, and my husband knows this. This is my schedule from now on, and you need to respect it. We need to support each other. I'm gonna be knocking on doors because the way you win is being on the field. It's talking to people and listening to people, to your neighbors who live with you. So it's being organized. And I did, and this is something that Lily mentioned, I did talk to a neighbor who's like 3 houses away from me who said, well, Natali, I'm not a Democrat. And I said, well, let's fix that, because then your vote is not useful in Montgomery County. You need to be a Democrat. So, he got switched. So it's believing in yourself, knowing who you are, knowing your community, and always, as Joseline mentioned, go high. If somebody is trying to put you down, just make sure, focus yourself and know who you are and your values. that takes you a long way.
So we're slowly winding down, but I've got about 4 minutes, and I did want to take advantage of having the two delegates on to ask you really quick, how challenging is the redistricting going to be? If you can share with us. I know that the census information doesn't come out until the end of September, but
I'll let Joseline go first. She's a veteran. She has been through that before.
So listen, and thank you, Lily. I'm sure she is very capable of handling it. Look, we're waiting for the census information, which will be quite late in September, and it will be difficult. Some districts are going to change. Thank God Maryland is not going to lose any congressional seats. We found that out. But the lines are still going to change. What that will look like, we don't know yet, right? But I know that the Black Caucus has put together a committee to be ready. I know that the governor just made his appointments about 4 weeks ago as well. The legislature, the Speaker of the House has asked Delegate Wilkins, Janelle Wilkins, to work on the census, and she's doing that. I am part of the Rules Committee, and the Rules Committee are the chair and vice chair of the House, and we actually are part of the redistricting, and we'll be voting on the plan. So
you guys have got it all under control.
We do. Like, I mean, in all honesty, we don't have the numbers yet, but we are working behind the scenes at putting the structure together.
Awesome. Well, we have actually run out of time. It goes so fast and so fascinating to have all of you ladies on the show and talking about the different perspectives and experiences you've had. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on the show. Thank you to the audience for watching. And this is Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow. You can catch us on the YouTube channel, on the cable channel 21, and on Facebook.